Welcome to Win the Day from Back to the Bible. I'm your coach, Pastor Nat, and today we're going to talk about getting our worship right. What is worship? Chances are, if I asked you for a real answer, you'd probably say something like praise. Or maybe you'd say it's singing. Maybe you'd say, no, it's gathering at a church. And guess what? You would be right. Well, at least partially right. So then you may be wondering, okay, Nat, you're so smart. Just what is worship? Well, you knew I was going to say this, but let's go back to the Bible for the answer. Jesus said this in Matthew chapter 15, beginning in verse 8. "This people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. They worship me in vain, teaching as doctrines human commands." According to Jesus, worship involves both attitude and action. You see, it's not just merely acting a certain way or doing certain things, though surely our actions do matter. What it is, it's a marriage of right motives combined with right actions aimed towards God. We can see the difference in the offerings of Cain and Abel. Maybe you remember, but what was Cain's problem, besides jealousy and stubbornness and murderous rage? The problem was, Cain brought an unacceptable sacrifice to the Lord and demanded that the Lord be pleased. You see, right motives matter when it comes to worship. Any action bathed in vanity, as Jesus put it here, is nothing but filthy rags. It's just religious busyness. And Jesus brings even more clarity to worship in John chapter 4, beginning in verse 23. Jesus said, "But an hour is coming and is now here, when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth." Yes, the Father wants such people to worship Him. God is spirit, and those who worship Him must worship in spirit and in truth. What exactly is Jesus saying? He is saying when we worship, when we want to have right worship, good worship, pleasing worship, it all depends on right mental grasp of the way God really is. In other words, knowing and believing the truth. You see, if we worship an idol of our own creation, we're not really worshiping God. You see, what we need to do is begin to worship God for who He really is. You see, true worship is based on a right understanding of God's nature, and it is a right valuing of God's worth. We know this, but we need to be reminded. We shouldn't worship our kids. We shouldn't worship our parents. We shouldn't worship singers, actors. We shouldn't worship our technology, our smartphones. We shouldn't worship our hobbies. We shouldn't worship food. Nothing except for God is worthy of worship. Friend, it's not about religious activity. It's not about checking boxes. It is about love-driven actions towards God. That is real worship. Worship, biblically speaking, is that alignment of our hearts and our actions directed towards God alone. So here's my challenge for you today. I want you to begin worshiping in word and action. But it all begins by getting your heart right. So I want you to align your heart and your mouth. How? It starts with communicating your praise. It may begin by beginning with repentance towards God. This is key. But once you get your heart right and your mouth moving in the right direction, then it's time to display love through action and service. What is one way that you can demonstrate the hands and feet of Christ? How can you show the supreme value of God in sacrifice for the good of others. I would love for you to do it today. Now that you know what real worship is, go win the day.